Hey everybody, it's Jessica Bedell Mongue, and I'm here with the wonderful
Bobbie Grenier. Welcome to Behind the Title, the official podcast of Treworgy and Baldacci Real Estate Closing Services.
Thank you for tuning in. And this one's a little bit lighthearted, but I think everybody will appreciate the topic that Bobbie and I are going to talk about today. It's the phrase, if we had $1 every time someone said what?
I love this idea because I think that anybody and all of our title friends can probably agree that there are common, I guess they come from misconceptions. I guess that's a good way to put it. So we're going to jump right off. So if I had $1 every time somebody said, we're clear to close, so we're all set, right? Well, the hard part's over. Clear to close, that's a beautiful phrase. Those are beautiful words that we all love to hear. And what that means is the lender has said, okay, we're all set on our end, but there still are some things that need to happen. So we need to get the timing piece. We need to get things scheduled. When can buyers sign? When can sellers sign? We need to get all the funding logistics in place. Make sure that the buyers can get their money there. Are there gift funds coming? It's a huge milestone. It gets us closer to that closing, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen within the next few hours.
It's so funny because I think a lot of times, again, this is an educational awareness piece for our referral partners, our realtors. Just because we have the clear to close does not mean that we're ready to close. There's additional steps and processes that, we have to wrap up before we have everything. It's not like somebody snaps their fingers and we magically have a closing package sitting in our emails that we can print and get everybody in the door. It's just not so instantaneous. And I think you're right. It is a misconception that people think that the clear to close means we have everything and we're ready to close. That's just the beginning of essentially moving towards scheduling and getting everything executed. You're absolutely right, Bobbie. So how about the money has already been wired? How many times have you been in a situation, Bobbie, where, we've been advised that the money's been sent?
People think that when they hit that initiation button, whether they're initiating a wire online or they're calling their bank or they're physically going into the bank, that the money is going to be there instantly, or if the lender's funds have been initiated. So that money has to be in our account. It has to land in our account before we are considered funded. So great news that you've gotten some type of confirmation on the other end that the wire has been initiated, but that doesn't mean we instantly have the money. And I do find, I actually had a situation the other night with bigger lenders. The wire is sent into a batch. So they disperse their funding wires in batches. So you maybe have the funding approved at 10 a.m. and it might not go out until the next batch at 2 p.m. So there is some waiting time. We have a lot of lenders, again, a lot of national lenders that are in different time zones. So we have that to consider. So again, great step that the wire's been initiated, but until those funds land in our account, we don't consider the transaction funded.
Well, unfortunately, there's a process. And I think it's good for folks to remember, too, that sometimes our credit unions actually work with another third party to process wires. So that's an extra layer of individuals that the wire has to be received and then released from in order for us to get it into our account. So super important for you to have a discussion with your bank or your credit union, prior to going through the process, to get a timeline from them of how they actually initiate wires. What does that look like? What is their process? Because they're not all created equally or the same, guys.
So the next one is, if we had $1 for every time someone said, can we just email you the wiring instructions, or will you just call my bank and get my wiring instructions? There's two pieces to that. We're not going to just email you wiring instructions, and that's a safety concern. So we have to take the steps on our end, and you should as well, to make sure that wiring instructions are received and provided in a very secure manner. And the other thing is, banks are not going to give us your account information. We love to be full service, but unfortunately, the responsibility of getting those wiring instructions to us securely does fall on whoever is going to be receiving those funds.
And this one, I feel like we hear all the time, right? Well, the seller said that everything was paid off already. We do a title search for a reason, and it is because people are human and they forget. I've been through multiple transactions where, we've had sellers who have sworn up and down that there are no outstanding mortgages or liens on the property, and then go to do the title search and there is a HELOC that's open or some other account that maybe was paid off but never got properly discharged, right? So human error happens. People also have their own error when it comes to remembering, what has been paid off and not. So the title search is there to protect everybody in the transaction and to ensure that everything has been taken care of by the time of closing. So just because somebody is telling us that something was paid off, we still have to do the due diligence to ensure that that information is actually correct.
I feel like there's a lot of misconception around HELOCs, and a HELOC stands for a home equity line of credit. So it is a mortgage against your property, a lien against your property. And I've had, on more than one occasion over my years doing this, had people say, no, that's a HELOC. That has nothing to do with my property. And I said, well, there was a mortgage you signed, right? That is encumbering your property. Just like your first mortgage, this needs to be paid off as well. So I don't think that people necessarily are being dishonest. They just don't correlate a HELOC with an actual mortgage. And it is, and it needs to be paid off to clear title.
I think this one kind of goes very similarly with the seller said that everything was paid off, but I actually just had a potential customer say this to me on a piece of land that they're potentially purchasing. And, oh, well, it just closed a couple of years ago. The sellers are friends of mine. And prior to that, it was owned by the same person for 50 years. So title should be fine. Why?
We hear that all the time. And honestly, Jess, I find a lot of times that family land is sometimes the most difficult because that great-grandpa had 200 acres. It was the homestead, and he wanted to keep everybody close. So he cut off 5 acres here and 10 acres there, often without the benefit of survey work. So we always have to do that title search, even if you don't think there's a lot of activity on title, and hopefully there isn't. We always do the title search, and we really don't do transactions where we don't search that title.
It's amazing, Bobbie, the amount of people that I've come into contact with over the years that have, acquired property basically through a handshake deal. I'm kind of getting off topic, but while we're on the topic, I feel like I have to throw it out there.
So the next topic, if we had $1 every time we heard it, can we close today and record later? Absolutely not. Once we do a closing, funds are dispersed, those documents need to go on record. So when you record documents at the Registry of Deeds, it is a timing thing. It's, first in line has the first priority. So we need to make sure that there is minimal gap between when we've done our last minute updated title search to when we get our new documents on record. So there have been different situations, where that might be a request, but absolutely not. Documents need to go on record immediately, which is very doable now that we do electronic recording. We don't have to physically send the documents to the Registry of Deeds anymore.
I never worked in title, during those years, but I've heard the stories of going to the registry, physically walking across the street and bringing your stack of deeds and mortgages to be dropped off. And I just find it fascinating to, hear people recall about working in the industry at that time and what it was like. So we're very grateful for technology in some ways, and it has definitely made our lives easier as far as recording goes and timing.
Absolutely. And I am one of the old timers, Jess. So I remember being in post closing and putting a note, record first, record second, record third. If you had several deeds and several security instruments, or maybe assignment of rents or what have you, that it does matter which order these things go on records. So, and then if you recorded them the wrong way, then there had to be affidavits and things re-recorded. So we have so much more control with electronic recording.
Let's talk about when we hear folks say, we've always done it this way. Well, what they really mean is maybe they haven't closed in over 20 years, right? And they're not up to date on the changes in our industry, or they've worked with a private law firm that's actually maybe not a title company, and they have their own ways of potentially processing a transaction. But guys, fraud evolves, the laws change, as we've been discussing, technology and our best practices in the industry change. And, these changes are about not inconveniencing anybody as a party to the transaction, but about protecting you and protecting us and everybody else involved. At the end of the day, the goal is to make sure that everything is done correctly, securely. If we're asking you to do something, there's always a good reason behind it, and accurately.
We are so highly regulated, as it should be. So we're always happy to explain why. Usually the explanation involves some type of law that was passed, or regulation, or something, again, in best practices that we're required to do by our underwriter. So we really have to follow a lot of rules, which is a good thing. And the other point I want to make is I have had, and you probably have over the years, had somebody call me and said, why can't you do this? This isn't the way that ABC Title Company does it. And we work very closely with ABC Title Companies, so I know that that's not factual. So this is a great opportunity for us all to be on the same page as far as title companies and support each other. And so many times somebody has called me and said, why can't you do, somebody from another title company has called me and said, why can't you do this? There's always more to the story, and I explain it. Okay, they didn't tell me that. So that's, communication amongst our industry partners, especially in other title companies. I enjoy having a working relationship with other title companies and being able to keep our industry standard high and support each other, so that we make sure that those types of comments that the other title company is going to do something that we're not permitted to do isn't always truthful. So here's one that I hear in closings. And if I had $1 for every time somebody said, the buyer doesn't need an owner's title insurance policy, and that primarily is followed up with, they're buying a lender policy. That is terrible advice. Real estate agents, if you're saying that, please don't, because it's not accurate, and it really puts us in that cringy position at a closing to say, that's not true, and we never want to do that. We always want everybody to shine and be in the best light, but we also have to give the accurate information so that our buyers are protected. Make sure you educate yourself when it comes to title insurance, especially owner's title insurance. And if you don't know, don't offer the advice, and be very careful about falling into that category where you may be giving legal advice, because that does open you up to a lot of vulnerability should you give bad advice, and it does fall into that category of giving legal advice when you are not qualified to do so.
Yeah, and they're at the title company that is ready to take a phone call from a buyer to discuss this with them and give them the accurate, correct information of what an owner's title insurance policy does, what it protects, and what it doesn't. We're not all expected to be experts in every lane of real estate. It's very important to stay in your lane, like Bobbie said, and not ride that line of potentially giving somebody legal advice. We're ready to answer these questions and to have those discussions. And also, we're here to have those discussions with you, that we want to talk about this stuff with you guys and help you understand what we're explaining to your clients as well. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we can collaborate together on having a meeting so you can be part of this conversation as well.
People that are scheduling and setting up the education for sales meetings within their agency, that's a great topic to have anyone from a title company to come in and give them a basic knowledge. They don't have to have all of the ins and outs, but really to give them the tools so that they can speak with their clients about title insurance, answer some basic questions, and know when to refer them on to a title professional.
And then last but not least, Bobbie, if I had $1 for every time I've heard, well, it's just a small issue, can't we ignore it, would probably be sipping pina coladas somewhere on a beach.
Absolutely. We have to address all the issues, and we have so many ways to do that, be it through corrective work, be it through underwriting approval, be it through the seller paying off, an outstanding lien or a debt or something along those lines. Maybe we have to pull in some surveyors. So we love the clean, easy deals, but title issues are a part of the real estate world. That is truly why we're here, to give you clean title, to make sure that that property that you're spending your hard-earned money on is marketable, meaning you can borrow against it, you can sell it if you so choose and give clear title. So you want to make sure everything is squeaky clean when you purchase that property, and you might be so anxious to buy that piece of land that you're not going to worry about maybe an outstanding interest of 2 owners past. However, you should worry about it, and you should make sure that the title is clean and have us do our jobs.
And remember, there are no bad questions when it comes to any of this stuff, guys. People just don't know. So when in doubt, call us, direct your clients to call us. We are here to explain the why behind the ask.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of fun with this. They're all actually serious issues, where these are sort of the things that Jess and I came up with that we hear all the time, be it from buyer clients, seller clients, real estate agents, general public, that we want to clear the air on and give you a little more information. So when you ask the question, we are here to answer it.
We have some other title reps out there that are listening to this, and you also got a chuckle from this topic today. And we just appreciate you tuning in to another episode of Behind the Title. Bobbie, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Jess. And remember to follow us and share us and rate us and do all the things on your favorite listening platform. Jess and I enjoy this podcast. We believe in it. We want it to grow, and we need your help to do that. So thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Behind the Title, the official podcast of Treworgy and Baldacci Real Estate Closing Services, with your hosts, Bobbie Grenier and Jessica Mongue. Remember, this podcast is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only, and not intended as legal advice. Please remember to follow and rate the show and share this episode with a friend.